Splatoon famously doesn't have an in-game voice chat, and to be clear, this is actually a hugely beneficial feature of the game, not something it's lacking. It's likely the single most important reason Splatoon is the most gender-diverse esport, that women and minorities aren't being driven away by the possibility that in any game they decide to play without warning, they could be confronted by idiots thoughtlessly using hate speech and behaving in toxic ways in reaction to the voices they hear talking back to them. This is a good thing. That all being said, voice comms aren't the only communication options in Splatoon. And while it may be a system that could use just a few more options, it's unwise to disregard the D-pad communication options. This way, ouch, and yes, even Booyah. Obviously, there are more than 3 things that are worth saying in Splatoon. For example, I think a be careful option and a play the objective option would be a massive improvement to the current system. But through context clues, these tools can still be very helpful and make a big difference in an engagement. Ouch is an extremely important tool, and you should strongly consider using it every time it's available. While it's less important in Splatoon 3, where, unlike in Splatoon 2, the game informs you of a teammate getting splatted even off-screen, it's an audio cue that is more likely to get a teammate's attention. When your teammate ouch pings, especially if the ping is behind you or to the side of you, that should immediately alter your decision-making. You're a player down. There's an opponent somewhere in range of your teammate, and if that teammate was behind you, that means you're being flanked. Someone slipped by you. You need to turn around and get information about what's happening so the same thing doesn't happen to you very, very soon. A quick note about the mechanics of an ouch ping. While the ping can be activated multiple times before you respawn, it can't just be spammed. The entire animation will finish and the text will fade out before it can appear again to your teammate. This player is spamming the D-pad input as quickly as they can, and this is what we're seeing as a result of that. That said, reinitiating the ouch ping is often useful if the opponent that got you is sharking on that same spot where you went down. Now, ouch pinging a second time when the player is long gone can sometimes have the opposite of the intended effect. If a player has been moving since splatting you, a second ouch ping can make your teammates look at you away from that player. So sometimes a single ouch ping allows the players on your team to think about it and deduce what's happened since the splat occurred and figure out where they should actually be looking. When a teammate trades back the player that splatted me and caused me to ouch ping, I always respond to that with a Booyah ping, indicating, yep, that was the one, you got him, good job. If there's still another player in that area, I'll ouch ping again to warn them that the danger still isn't over for them. There are times when an ouch ping is unnecessary. For example, if you were the last player up, the word wipeout is all the information your team needs. If you and the opponent traded, so there's no one near you that poses a threat to the rest of your team, it may be okay to skip it, though it can still be helpful to let a nearby teammate know that you're not there to support them anymore. If it happened directly in front of your whole team and they're actively engaged in the fight you started, though, there's no need to distract them with information they already know. But I would err on the side of using the ping once every time you're splatted, just habitually. This way pings are probably the most poorly designed of the options, because that phrase can be interpreted a number of different ways. Does it mean there's something this way that your teammate should look at? Or does it mean your teammate should actually come this way? I once played a scrim with a player who was this way pinging a lot, and in trying to respond to those pings, I would often get splatted quickly. Once, having done this, I realized that the player who pinged this way had actually run away as soon as they pinged it, and that I'd engaged in a fight I thought they'd help me with, ending up in a 1v2. They explained that they use this way to warn that something where they're pinging is dangerous, and that I should actually avoid them when they use that ping. I personally don't think that use of the ping is very common, and I would argue it's better not to use it that way so you aren't misunderstood. I think most players are more likely to rally to you than retreat from you when you use the ping, and that you'll bait a lot of teammates into dangerous situations by using it that way. But the fact that the ambiguity is there does cause problems. It's a common frustration with people that use the ping a lot, because it can be hard to read their intent, especially if they use it in a lot of different situations, and it seems to lose its meaning. Another danger of the this way ping is that it's bound to the same input as the ouch ping, and occasionally a player will think they're splatted when they actually haven't been splatted, or maybe they'll press it a little too early to get the ouch ping and this way instead right as they're going down. If a this way doesn't seem to make much sense, especially if the player immediately starts standing still, since you stop making inputs when you're splatted, consider this possibility as well. In the general case, I would say that this way means you want your teammates to move toward you and at least get in a position where they're in range to help you if you get into a fight. It's a tool for drawing them to something near you. For example, if you're skirmishing an opponent and you're likely to lose the engagement, but you can keep yourself alive for a long time before you do, a this way ping can make the difference between losing the fight and getting splatted by yourself, or getting a teammate to help you and getting a clean win because you stay alive long enough that they can hit your opponent in the back. If you have a big numbers advantage, but your team is still hanging back near your spawn and not capitalizing on it, a this way can mobilize them a little bit quicker and potentially let you use that window of opportunity. A this way can also be used to communicate that a teammate is out of play and should return from a flank they're on to a position that supports the team more. Occasionally, flankers, like, say, brushes trying to run to the enemy clan basket alone and unprotected and doing nothing else. I promise this strategy stops working at higher levels. Don't go for it so often. It becomes a predictable habit. You'll thank me later. We'll get so far away from the action that the enemy team either isolates them, gets them stuck in a 1v2 or 1v3 and splats them, or even just takes advantage of the temporary 4v3 advantage they have, ignores them, and starts pushing your basket. This is disastrous for both the 3 players outnumbered on defense and the flanker, who will end up either splatted or stranded at the enemy basket with a power clan they can never throw in, since the enemy team has the numbers to hold the basket indefinitely. If you see a play like that developing, a this way ping can often be recognized as aimed at that player, because the other members of your team are already with you, but that player is not. Knowing this, we can look at this exchange that happened between me and a teammate in a solo queue match I had on stream, and essentially interpret it as a conversation. This is the point where I realized that in this way, and then they booyah. And they're still scoring. See, the this way and the booyah, those are the things where I'm like, you gotta think, you know, with the enemy team scoring like that. Yeah, I think with the fact that we saw the squid bagging, and the fact that they responded to my this way by booyahing and this waying back, even though we didn't have control of the zone, that's probably griefing. Through just my this way, their this way, and their booyah, we can deduce that they're communicating their intentions to grief the team by continuing to sit in an uncontested position away from the zone and let the other team win. By the way, you can report players for cases like this where they're clearly griefing. This is not a "this player didn't play well" complaint. This is a "this player was not attempting to play the game at all and sat and watched us lose" sort of thing. And don't let any amount of salt prevent you from seeing the difference. With that unfortunate occurrence out of the way, though, I want to talk about what I think is actually the most powerful option, which is actually Booyah. It might seem like this option is more aesthetic than anything, but I wouldn't undersell it. First of all, it's commonly used at the beginning of a match as a sort of equivalent to the classic "good luck, have fun," or, since it's only seen by your teammates, maybe more of a "alright team, let's go, we've got this." It may not feel like it means much when it happens every game, but letting a teammate booyah and having none of the teammates booyah back kind of feels like that player is getting left hanging for a high five. If someone booyahs at the beginning of the game, just booyah back. It's one small nice thing you can do for these random strangers of teammates that makes them feel like you've got their back. Some people might complain that doing so takes their hands off their controller when they're trying to roll out into mid or start pinning the map. Up on the D-pad is pretty close to your left thumb and easy enough to drop your thumb down for it, but down on the D-pad takes you away from being able to move for a lot longer. I'd like to suggest this technique that I use both for booyahing back and for charging a teammate's booyah bomb in the middle of an engagement. If you stretch your right thumb to the D-pad, you can keep your whole left hand where it is, moving your character, and also still be able to fire shots with your pointer finger on your right hand. This is the way I've found interferes least with my ability to play the game while still using the Booyah ping. Of course, Booyah allows you to charge Booyah bombs, which you should almost always do at least 4 or 5 times. The only time you want to consider not doing this is when you're playing stealthily, because the flash that moves from your character to the Booyah bomber is visible to opponents and gives you away. But as long as it's safe, Booyahing gives you special charge in addition to charging their Booyah faster, which can mean the difference for them between surviving and going down if their Booyah armor is being shot at. And again, because of this right thumb technique, you don't have to take your hands off your controller or stop the fight that you're in order to do this. Those are the common uses for it, but I also would like to suggest a couple other ideas for when to Booyah that I think are even more powerful. I've mentioned using Booyah to indicate that a teammate has successfully traded back the player that splatted you. This is, in part, just to let them know there's no danger there, but it's also a thank you and a pat on the back for your teammate. If my teammate pops off and gets a double or a triple, I'll Booyah them for that. On top of being a pat on the back for them, it lets the rest of my team know something good happened, which can clue them into the fact that we have a numbers advantage and we should press forward. If a teammate and I play off one another well, maybe I skirmish a fight and they follow up and get the player like I wanted them to, I'll Booyah. Don't overuse it. If it feels like it's given too freely or the player isn't sure what they did right, it's not helping. It can even be viewed as sarcastic if you use it when something bad happens. When the team wipes, seeing someone Booyah about it is not a good feeling. But what they've given you in this communication option is the ability to give your teammates positive reinforcement. Morale is an extremely important part of the game. Playing on tilt is something everyone struggles with, and even in a coordinated team setting where you're less anonymous and aren't as likely to blame teammates on the mic or rage, negative emotions can quickly cause a promising tournament run to shrivel up and feel like a wasted afternoon. If someone doesn't feel rewarded for doing the right thing, but does feel punished and criticized for doing the wrong thing, that has a negative impact on morale. In solo queue, you don't know what the player's last game was like. If they did something good here, let them know they did a good job. Make them feel proud of it. It gives them confidence. It makes them feel less insecure. It makes them more likely to forgive your mistakes later on and want to earnestly work with you. If your team really kicked butt, send out a Booyah in the closing second of the game as a celebration. Y'all earned it.